Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly. We're back with another Eastern Tennessee fishing report with Ellis Ward. How you doing, Ellis?
I'm doing well tonight, Marv. How are you?
I'm just trying to stay out of trouble, and it's kind of a weird thing in our part of the world. It's like we're finally getting a bunch of rain. It's going to go from being really cold to being really warm to being sort of cold again. And you and I were talking. That kind of makes for a real grab bag on the river.
Yeah, with the last tropical storm, I think that it was by the time it got here, we've gotten a decent amount of rain just up in the reservoirs. And if you look at the operating guides, so on the TVA app, you can see that they're above their a number of different guide curves and thresholds. So they will be, TVA, the reservoirs will be pushing water, especially with this next couple of days of rain coming through. They're going to be generating a good amount of water, and it also coincides with, of course, the clouds and rain coming through, and it's looking to be pretty socked in. So it does some pretty cool stuff for fishing, notably streamer fishing is just when there is obstruction of any sort, cloud cover, notably combined with that, the low pressure system and the lack of angling and guide pressure on these rivers this time of year relative to other times of year. It's a good time to pick off some fish that are more willing to eat and really haven't seen streamers, in some parts flies very much in the last month or two. But it's really the first set of multiple days in a row where we're getting both the weather and the flows that would allow someone to enjoy the fruits of their labor with casting and retrieving bigger flies. And then at the same time, while all that's going down, when you get those conditions, it's also a great time for a lot of blue wings to come out. And what I've been seeing is a lot of, in the lower sections of the rivers, lake run rainbow trout, and I'm sure there are big ones. I have not personally encountered them, but they're just super silver, really pretty, fight like hell, and very willing to eat dry flies because they haven't been exposed to them up in the rivers. So where you would have maybe a pod, there's an entire stretch of the river with risers. So it's something to break up the streamer casting, and it's a good time of year.
Yeah. And so, when you've got basically that kind of dry fly activity, you got a lot of gulpers, are there any tips you can give folks to maybe, because if you can't see them, right, particularly if, you don't have sun and the water's a little stained, to maybe have a good chance at kind of casting to one of the bigger fish as opposed to, getting excited and hooking a 4-inch rainbow?
Sure. Look to the margins. So a lot of these are going to be, you can think of a dry fly shelf with a little gravel bar coming up, and there would normally be, let's just say, a 20 by 20 space with fish rising. It's that entire, quarter mile and 50 feet across. Look to like the soft water and just keep your eyes peeled, because you can, especially for the fish that are up from the lake, you can see and hear the big eats. And then something else to keep an eye out for is you'll see this in sort of the softer waters, so the slower flat stretches. These fish are just cruising around, and I say that they're like carp or redfish on the surface. So they're just cruising around with their mouths open, just munching stuff on the surface. And so it's not like you're casting to a fish that is in a lane rising up and eating. You're watching it move and you're casting to where it's going to be. And those are oftentimes bigger fish.
Yeah, got it. And then in terms of flows for streamer fishing, are you having such an increase in flows that it's going to really push the fish onto structure? Or are they going to basically kind of be normally where they are because the water's not going to come up that much, but they're just going to feel a lot more comfortable moving around and they'll be a little bit more, I guess I call it chasey?
Yeah, they're just with on and off on these waters. Um, that that bitiness, that chasiness, really, I'm not going to say only occurs. You can get it done in low flows, but the higher flows, specifically middle upper river, the low flows just there's not much space. Um, and it is they are exposed. They're exposed to us. They're exposed to herons, otters, everything else that's out there to get them. And so when the flows come up, that's really that's the time to do it. One thing to note is that I always like fishing the structure. You might see them emerging from a big boulder. The South Holston has some pools with some really giant boulders in them, but otherwise I'm targeting the boulders. Also, not going to get on the soapbox about this, but good time of year to keep those casts going towards the banks. Pulling fish out of the middle of the river in late fall, early winters, just not terribly sporting. So fishing towards structure, and then if you're not seeing or not, for people that are used to it or have experience out here, or those that are new to it and just expecting something, if you're not seeing activity in a run, a lot of the times they're going to be holding just a little lower in some of the more open pools. And in those areas, it doesn't have to be ripping water and hitting the bank right on the money, just because you have a little more space to convince them. So, fish those open pools and keep that fly moving all the way to the boat.
Got it. And, folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can DM us on social media. You can send me an email, whatever's easiest for you. And if we use your question, I will send you some articulate fly swag. And we're going to enter a drawing for 2 days of fishing with Ellis and a night at the Watauga River Lodge. And, Ellis, I was talking to you before we started recording, and your process and deer tails, what you got going on the time material front?
Yeah, a couple hundred bucktails right now. A number of them are really nice. We got right before rifle season open, which is for me deer tail season. Right before rifle season open, we got a week or two. That was the cold snap that we had talked about a couple weeks ago. So some good tails, and then some good belly hair. We'll see whether or not that makes it out for sale. But yeah, the tails will be, I'll put an announcement on Instagram. They'll be on my website, and then I'll be getting a number to Richie out in DC at District Angling.
Yeah, got it. And you're going to be dyeing some up too, right?
Yeah, that will be kind of for the next 2 or 3 months, sort of rolling out different colors based on what people are asking about, what's selling, and to be honest, just what I feel like dyeing at the time.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. And before I let you hop and go to the shed, as you say, to process more bucktail, you want to let folks know where they can find you and book you and follow all of your adventures on the water and at the Vice on social media.
Sure. Instagram is at Ellis Ward Flies, and booking and more information on trips can be found on my website, which is the same, elliswardflies.com. And as always, direct text, calls, whatever communication to asking questions or more information or to book a trip. My cell phone at 513-543-0091.
Well, there you go. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ellis.
Appreciate it, Marv.